I'm strong in faith.
Faith can move mountains.
Radio Maria
91.3 FM.
The voice of truth.
Good morning, and thank you for tuning to Radio Maria 91.3 FM. It is now time for Side by Side, where we discuss issues relating to conflict, peace, and security. I am Reverend Father Louis Duniya. Chiedu is also here by my side. Good morning, Chiedu.
Good morning, Father Louis. Good morning, listeners.
On today's show, we shall take a look at Nigerians in diaspora. Here we call them Diaporans and nation building. The issues we hope to uncover with this topic include challenges bordering on so many things that concern and revolve around the contributions of Nigerians who are living abroad and how they can bring their expertise, goodwill, and even resources to make our country better. To enable us do this, and for this reason, we are joined by a guest who is a regular on our show, an expert, Dr. Okey Okechukwu. Dr. Okey Okechukwu is a national security expert, principal attorney at Dolce Marinas Solicitors, and convener of Aruba Center for Policy and Strategy, Abuja. He is also an academic. Dr. Okey, you're welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you, listeners. Thank you for the opportunity.
Now we will have Chiedu take us through some of the headlines.
Yeah, thank you, Father Louis. We followed quite a good number of stories of top interest, both at the national and the international scene. Here are some of them. Building collapse. Lagos orders arrest of developer and others. Coming from the Punch newspaper. The Lagos state government has ordered the arrest of a developer and building professionals working on the 7th-floor structure that collapsed at Oba Abiodun Road, Oba Abiodun Oniru Road in the Iru, Victoria Island area of the state. The Commissioner for Physical Planning and Urban Development, Dr. Idris Salako, made this known during his visit to the site of the building collapse on Sunday. The statement read in part, the Commissioner said the developer and professionals on the building were liable for their disregard for the planning laws of the state, having embarked on construction without a valid planning permit and ignoring official warnings against continuing the building works. Gunmen kidnap school principal in Akwa Ibom community. This is coming from the Vanguard newspaper. Lagos Ibadan standard gauge rail, key to efficient cargo movement. APM terminals. This also is coming to us from the Vanguard newspaper. 32 passengers feared abducted in Ondo. Reaching us also from the Vanguard newspaper. No fewer than 32 passengers returning from a burial ceremony in Benin, Edo State were reportedly abducted along Owo Benin highway over the weekend. Nigeria embassies decaying, incurring millions of dollars in utility bills and maintenance and others. This is according to the Auditor General, and the Tribune newspaper is bringing us this story. The Office of the Auditor General of the Federation has exposed the deplorable conditions of the nation's missions across the world and urged for an immediate action on them, saying that most of the properties housing the missions were becoming international embarrassment to Nigeria. This was contained in the report currently before the House of Representatives Committee on Public Accounts, being chaired by Honorable Okey, uh, a member of the House of Reps.
This is serious, isn't it?
Right. And then, of course, it's ties to what we're even looking at, because diasporans, uh, one way or the other, relate to our missions abroad, and the missions abroad also weigh in when diasporans have issues abroad. Okay, so I mean, it ties into the topic we are looking at. Dr. Odi, it's something you're very familiar with.
We also have public buildings in Nigeria that are unattended to. So possibly it's the culture, it's the Nigerian culture, not to maintain facilities.
So if the ones right before us are in, some of them are in those deplorable states.
Yes.
So you can imagine the ones that are not in
Yes.
in our faces every day.
Yes.
So those would like be double portion of what we see, or maybe far more worse.
It's actually the issues they have at the Foreign Affairs Ministry. If you go to the Foreign Affairs Ministry, you also think it's a marketplace. So disorganized.
Foreign Affairs Ministry, what?
Yes, in Abuja. Here.
No, they need their new building.
Yes.
Yeah, but
go and see how the staff dress, and you see that it doesn't reflect foreign affairs. Even their dressing does not reflect foreign affairs.
You better pull through our story.
All right. Many fighters of the Boko Haram sect were bombed when the military stormed a mass burial that the sect organized for some of its fighters in the beginning of this month. This is coming from the Daily Trust. We have the next story from the Tribune. Reps FCT minister to recover over 7,000 federal government properties from illegal occupants in Abuja. The Tribune brings us this story, and going further, a House of Reps representative subcommittee and the minister of the Ministry of Federal Capital Territory, Malam Mohammed Musa Bello, have agreed to work together and address the issues of over 7,000 properties of the federal government being occupied illegally for years in the nation's federal capital territory. It squares with what we just listened to again. So I mean, it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't ruin. It's pouring actually. Not good really, because lots of revenue onshore and offshore. Right.
My only reservation, and let me say fears, is that I hope this is not one other drama in the mix, where people who may really be seemingly innocent get caught up in this drama, because a lot of back and forth has gone through disposing of this government property from one administration to the other. I just hope they do their work well, so that at the end of the day, only those who
illegal occupants.
I'm not, but
only those who are illegal occupants.
Illegal occupants
will be worried. They don't want to be worried. It's okay. Yeah, Dana Air moves to resume flights, concludes safety training. This is from the Daily Trust. Of course, one would like to believe, if due diligence and all the necessary checks are carried out, and these are carrier returns to the air, having met all the safety regulations, it will help deal with the issue of reduced capacity that is impacting significantly on the wrong side for the traveling public. Diaspora voting. Dabiri Erewa urges Nigerians living abroad not to be disappointed. This is from the Daily Trust. The chairman of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, NIDCAM, Honorable Abike Dabiri Erewa, has enjoined Nigerians living in the diaspora not to be disappointed that they won't be participating in the 2023 general elections. NNPC insists 68 million liters of petrol supplied across Nigeria daily, coming from the premium times. If this is accurate and the reliable information, it will help ease um, difficult times some cities have been going through. Abuja in particular, it has lingered for months. But I mean, it appears this is reliable because in the last 1 week or so, fuel supply has been regular, and then the long queues, long queues, wrong.
over
So many things.
quantities of petroleum product, either imported or supplied.
Right.
So, and I think while the custom is making its claim, the chief of naval staff had something to tell us about stolen crude last week, and then NNPC is coming. Like you said, we hope this figure is precise.
Yeah.
And maybe it will help us plan better.
Yeah. Let's get through this news quickly. 9 dead, 10 injured in Abuja auto accident. This is from the Daily Post. 9 persons have been confirmed dead, with 10 others sustaining various degrees of injuries in an accident along Yangoji Abaji Road of the Federal Capital Territory. The Federal Risk Safety Commission, FRSC, confirmed this story. BC Kazim, the core public education officer, in a statement explained that the accident occurred at about 6:05 a.m. on Saturday. Nigerian troops kill over 100 ISWAP. That is the Islamic State for West African Province commanders in the Lake Chad province. This is coming from the Daily Nigerian. Enhancing Nigeria's cyber security with artificial intelligence. This story is coming to us from the Vanguard, and we'll look at the details shortly. Political communications and the 2023 elections. This headline reaching us from the Vanguard newspapers. Professionals in polling, strategy, messaging, and fundraising to win elections and legitimize democratic governments. In short, political consultants have a lot to learn from the recent changes in the rules governing the electoral environment in Nigeria in terms of the innovations and the consequences of enforcement. Besides, the new Electoral Act of 2022, signed by President Muhammadu Buhari on February 25, 2022, there are other regulations of campaigns that are contained in this Electoral Act, according to the Independent National Electoral Commission. We have saw some other stories. IGP dismisses security threat coming from the Punch newspaper. Churches must be non-partisan, says Khan president. This is also reaching us from the Punch newspaper. Ogun pastor nabbed for defiling 14-year-old chorister. From the Punch newspaper. This is another disgusting story. Right. Okay. Land grabbers risk jail term in Oyo and Lagos. Reaching us also from the Punch newspaper. From the Daily Trust, the Just Catholic Archbishop calls for dialogue for peaceful coexistence. Also, from the Daily Trust, abducted Zamfara worshippers working on bandit farmlands. Slave labor, right? Slave labor. Now, after being abducted, they've been turned into slaves and working as slaves on Nigerian soil. From the Daily Trust again, physically challenged man arrested for drug trafficking at Lagos airport. We have this last story. That is okay. Yeah, okay, we've already taken that. Father Louis, quite a good number of story trending in Nigeria, and then looking at the times we are in, all things are ahead of the nation as to achievables in this current year and in the year 2023. Um, well, if you weigh them, the the negative news and the positive ones.
During the last edition, our guests took on the media and journalists generally.
Generally,
That
yeah,
in Nigeria, the journalism is about projecting
yeah,
the negative. So
blank.
I think that it is not always about the negatives. Even the good things that are happening around still get projected. But it's just that we must find ways to de-escalate most of our uh, bad practices and behaviors, which sometimes constitutes most of the issues that come to us on our dailies. For instance, if our systems were working well, if people were more secured, if the outrageous don't happen, like people being taken into slavery under a legitimate regime in a legitimate space called the Nigerian state by some, funny characters. If these are not allowed to happen, such news would obviously not. But we hope and pray that together the led and the leaders will put their hands and heads together and make sure that we have a better narrative each time we look at our dailies.
Right. So we go on to discussion on some of the side stories that are really trending or resonating with the general public. Yeah, we have number one, the reps, that's the House of Representative Members, the FCT minister, to recover over 7,000 federal government properties from illegal occupants in Abuja. That is from the Tribune. The House of Reps subcommittee and the minister of the Ministry of Foreign Federal Capital Territory, sorry, Malam Mohammed Musa Bello, have agreed to work together and address the issues of over 7,000 properties of the federal government being illegally occupied for years in the nation's federal capital territory. This followed a visit paid on the FCT minister by the subcommittee led by its chairman, Honorable Jonathan Gaza Gefui. Chairman of the committee said that the visit became necessary so as to discuss ways to address the issues of government properties being occupied without any return to the government over the years. Dr. Odi, illegal occupants, loss of revenue, and then they say over the years, how come this got off the radar and nobody, is it that they were unaware for this to have lingered for these years, or somebody is aware, not doing their duty, or
And
some people are aware
Yeah.
and also collaborating with these illegal occupants?
Yes, there was an ad hoc committee on the sale of federal government properties that was constituted. That ad hoc committee worked with the Ministry of the Federal Capital Territory or the Federal Capital Territory Administration. Also, there's a role to play by the Federal Housing Authority. So this entire mix-up, and there's also a role to play by the Office of the Head of Service.
In this,
Yes, in this whole game.
Yeah.
So you see that there is a compromise between the Federal Housing Authority, the ad hoc committee on the sale of federal government properties, and also the Office of the Head of Service. So they are the ones who will actually determine the properties that belong to Federal Housing Authority. They are the ones to determine the properties that belong to the Office of the Head of Service. So now, when you talk about, when you are listening to this news, they are talking about over 7,000 illegally occupied. Yes. The
By-
first thing,
by
yes,
government, including government.
no, illegally occupied.
Okay.
So you find out that the compromise is within the Federal Housing Authority and the Office of the Head of Service. The ad hoc committee on sale of federal government properties, they've actually itemized. They know all the properties. They have a list of all the properties that belong to the office of the head of service. Those are the properties that they have sold. Now, as they are selling, Federal Housing Authority is also selling. Because some of these properties are located in Guarepa.
Poor interagency coordination.
Good. So the Federal Housing Authority is also laying claims to some of the properties, because some of the properties were actually occupied by their staff in the past, and when a count was taken, some properties were shifted to office of the head of service. Were brought under the control of office of the head of service. But the Federal Housing Authority still went ahead and they started selling and allocating some of these properties to their own people, or the people that they find pleasure in their faces or in the type of dresses they wear. So that is where we are having this issue. So I believe that the House of Representatives Committee, subcommittee that is coming into this matter right now, will be able to sit down and distill from the list. Is a bundle of a list. It's a huge bundle of a list. So they would still go through it and identify the properties that belong to Federal Housing Authority, the properties that belong to FCDA, the properties that belong to Office of the Head of Service, or under the control and supervision of the Office of the Head of Service.
Okay, yeah. So in a nutshell, what we have here is the case of poor interagency.
Not just poor interagency collaboration. Yeah. It's just poor administration. You understand? It's just poor administration, because they know the loopholes within the system. Some of these officers, some of them have retired, so they know the loophole within the system. So they profit from it to ensure that we have this kind of debacle that we're enjoying.
So revenues being lost, and then no accounting of this, poor accounting actually.
Do you know that there are people who just identified in connivance with officers of some of these ministries and departments and agencies of government? They just identified properties and they moved into it.
Occupy the properties as tenants, or take ownership.
They moved in and started occupying the properties.
And with time, ownership.
So there are those who also meet with officers of some of these agencies and ministries, and they tell them, okay, this one is vacant, apply to buy or whatever. So it's a whole lot of a big mess.
That is where my initial fear comes in. If in the second category, some persons may have midwife the possession of some of these properties by some of the staff of any of the three agencies identified, and those persons may have lost money, but due process was not followed.
Exactly.
And at the end of the day, persons become victims. You see that my fears are rightly placed, isn't it?
You know, one of the great things the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Alhaji Bello, has done, or he did in his first term, was to regularize land ownership in terms of issues of double allocation. He did well. Okay, he did well. He took his time, I think, for 4 years to do that, get that regularized. So if he's involved in this one, be rest assured, he's a very meticulous person. Be rest assured that he will do a thorough job too.
Yeah, okay. I mean, well, if that will be the outcome, then I think...
because, you know, that double allocation was a source of revenue, illicit revenue for staff of the FCDA and so on. But he took his time, he reconciled all that. So, you see, the stories about double allocation has reduced. And I believe very strongly that if he's involved in this particular process now, they will slime everything out.
Yeah, so in essence, those who should be worried are
those who bought properties illegally.
Yes, correct.
Could they have known that?
No, a lot of them know that it is an illegal transaction, but they believe that it will be regularized in future through
So-
connivance with
So
staff.
you do not worry if you are into a legitimate occupation. Okay.
Anyway, let's look at this other story, which is very interesting too.
Yeah.
We have a very important story on Nigeria's cybersecurity with artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence has emerged as a critical component of complementing the efforts of human information as with regards to security teams. Humans cannot adequately protect the dynamic attack surface of an organization alone. And so this artificial intelligence is now and again being deployed by increasingly on issues of cybersecurity by professionals to help breach risks and improve security posture. It provides also analysis, basis for analysis, threat identification, and a host of them. Cybersecurity has risen to become a national concern as threats concerning it now need to be taken more seriously. And I think Nigeria is ranked 16th among the countries most affected by cybercrime worldwide. And
From Deloitte. This is a report from Deloitte.
this is the Deloitte telling us that we are 16th. So cybersecurity, thank God we are dealing with a security expert. And Dr. Odi.
Yeah.
Now, I think there are many components to this cybersecurity, even though our focus here is on artificial intelligence. A lot of things are lumped up here. One, the capacities that this cybersecurity possess in terms of improving our security architecture. A lot of clamor, especially with the kind of insurgency going on in the country, different forms of violent crimes, and we have also had to lose so many of our gallant officers and men, and many have argued in your cycle that if there's good investment in this, it will help reduce our human casualties
Exactly.
and give us precisions in
Yeah.
addressing some of these issues. But while progress is being made in this respect, there's also the other angle about the cyber crimes that also take place. And cybersecurity too has capacity to help check some of these basic crimes, So I think it's a big box.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you want to help us streamline these and maybe throw more light on the issues.
Okay. We need to, in terms of cybersecurity, we need to outline it for purposes of conversation now. We need to, outline it in terms of commercial uses, critical infrastructure, defense and security. When you look at commercial uses, it's been very effective. Today, I can send money from here to someone who is in Abakaliki without any let or hindrance.
Yeah.
So it's been happening. In the past, I will have to go to the bank. So you see that technology has improved so much, even for our own users. A lot of people do not know that one of the factors, the critical factor that reduced armed robbery in Nigeria is online banking.
Very true.
Online banking.
Yeah.
A lot of people do not know that.
Okay, there's a data actually showing that.
A lot of people do not know that what reduced armed robbery in Nigeria is online banking. Because moving money, traders and businessmen were moving money from place to place. A lot of us were also keeping a whole lot of money at home.
Right.
And that was an incentive for armed robbers to attack you. But today, we've seen that it does not really exist. Other crimes are existing because they know they can't get money. They will rob big bosses coming from the east to the west, and buses going from the west to the north and east to the north for traders and businessmen. But that has reduced because what you do now is to just transfer money to your buyer, and you go there, you walk empty-handed, and you go there, you pack your goods and take to your destination. So now that has been working, and robbery is down. So what we're talking about is the need to secure, to make that process credible. Because a lot of people are hacking into the system to steal monies belonging to other people. So how do we make it credible? How do we protect that system? We're talking about artificial intelligence. Yes, artificial intelligence is a model that you can, that is always part of the technological explosion that we are enjoying today. Right. So you see, doing the things that humans could do, yes, protecting the integrity of our financial system is very key. So that's the commercial aspect of this. Right. Now, the other aspect is in terms of national security and defense. Yes, if you deploy technology, you save your men. Just like the insurgents, when they lack men, they start using bombs, planting bombs. They start planting bombs because it saves them from physical confrontation with state forces. So now, when we deploy technology, we save our men. Few men could be in a room here and coordinate attacks in Bama, in Borno State. Okay, with UAVs or drones, and they will predatory drones. They will, conduct attacks
with precision
guided attacks. Few men could sit in the room here. Three, even women are better in manipulating security devices, high technology security devices. They could sit here, they will get imageries, satellite imageries that will help tactical intelligence collection, that will help operation of ground forces. Okay? So now it's all money. Technology is expensive. And we know that the level of penetration of technology into our system, into our political system and economic system is very low. Good. So technology is money. But once you deploy technology, you should also deploy systems that will protect the technology. Because if you don't deploy systems that will protect what you have, then there's a problem. Then you look at critical infrastructure, they will tell you about denial of service. They will tell you about hackers, disrupting services. So that happens for electricity generation, and that also happens for a lot of our critical infrastructure. Look at the CSC. A lot of times their system is down. NIM too. Even NIM. So they hack into the systems and disrupt services. They hack into the systems to steal information. They hack into the systems just to
compromise
the entire system, to breach the credibility of the system. Now, the challenge with cybersecurity, especially when you are attacked, when there's an attack, is the challenge of attribution. A lot of times, it's difficult to attribute the source of attack. We've seen that happen to the Iranian project.
Right.
Okay? We've seen that happen
to the Saudis,
to Sunny.
Yeah. Even allegation in U.S. elections.
Good. Even allegation in U.S. elections. So a lot of people, like in Kenya today, they are the Supreme Court. They are talking about their electoral platform being hacked.
Should we fear for INEC?
Yeah, the truth. The truth is that what INEC has done is good enough. As I keep saying, is a process that will mature with time, especially in this election year. Under this new law, you are going to see a lot of issues that will be taken care of by the next law. It happened in 2011. There was a new law, and we had issues. So we are definitely going to have issues because it's managed by human beings. Once technology is involved, There are no errors from technology. Any breach is from the human part. Every breach, once you deploy technology, every breach is from the human part.
Is that the
So
predator?
now
Is that the predator?
good.
Is that the predator? For me, that the predator. That's those who are actually out to breach. Because there are those whose business is any system.
No, but there are people whose jobs it is.
Yes.
In North Korea, they have an army. They have an army that is, that is involved in hacking. China, they have a brigade for hacking. In Nigeria, we've set up one, not for hacking, but for cyber warfare and so on. Because the cyber warfare is another domain of conflict. So we need to improve on this. We've seen disruptions in critical infrastructures ongoing. It happens all the time. Every time we hear about failure, the transmission network for the transmission company of Nigeria and so on, a lot of those things we hear could be breaches, could be violations of the system. So we need to guard closely. But the problem there, like in the United States, a lot of these networks are in private hands.
Okay.
But there's a synergy between governments and private institutions to ensure that there is total cover. There's a shield, a firewall protection, against this public infrastructure. Because once it's destroyed or once its credibility is violated, it goes to the root of disrupting activities within the economic system and the political system.
Yeah.
So it calls for vigilance.
Yes.
I never doubted your knowledge in this area. The budget in most Western nations for cybersecurity is almost, in fact, it's not part of the defense budget, and it's becoming really huge because there's no doubt as to the impact of leaving this area of managing the nation's resources if it's left unattended to. Now, squaring it with what we're looking at today, there is hardly any story of innovation in artificial intelligence or information technology where there's hardly where Nigerians are not involved, Nigerians in diaspora. A good number of them, you find Nigerians playing one critical role or the other. Now, coming home, look at let's take the Israeli economy as a case study.
Okay.
Intellectual property and securing them, and then cybersecurity and artificial intelligence comes in here, and then of course it has a huge impact on economic development. Most of our diasporans, those who are not encouraged to return or who have one reason or the other not to return, keep talking about how do we protect innovations coming from them if they leave those secured environments, in quote, and return home.
We have sufficient laws for intellectual property rights.
Right.
The laws are there. We have sufficient laws. Let them stop giving excuses why they won't want to come here. We know why they don't want to come here. They don't want to come here because they feel that the system is not working. They don't want to come here because they feel that we are largely living in an insecure environment. Okay? So let them not talk about protecting their intellectual property rights. No, because we have sufficient laws that guarantees that.
But not just the laws. We're talking about the firewall, a defensive wall against predators of intellectual property. That's what a good number of them talk about it. But I deliberately brought in the resources available to Nigeria. I'm not talking about homegrown and talents, Nigerian talents developed abroad. I'm talking their position in actually ensuring that this fear, whether founded or unfounded, shouldn't be an issue as to what they can contribute in our nation building in all ramifications. That's the point I'm actually making here.
There are a lot they can contribute because they've been away, they've lived in other jurisdictions, they've seen how things are done. They expect that things should be done that way in our homeland.
Right.
In our homeland. But I keep saying it's a process. It's a process. Things will actually turn out well. State making is not done in 60 years.
Dr. Ude.
No, state making is not done in 60 years.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
I tell people that as early as the 1930s, there was a month France had 3 presidents. Four presidents in 1 month. The US Congress that we applaud today used to be a den of opium dealers.
Right.
The worst of their societies were in the Congress.
Yeah.
As early as 1900s. Do you understand? But today is a process. It's a process.
So we shouldn't take solace in that anyway. Yeah, but of course, let's not dig in that area in the sense that in the sense that the resources are available now were not available then. So I'm talking about the pace at which we can advance. We have a lot.
Technological penetration.
Technological knowledge.
Technological penetration into Africa, Nigeria, is slow.
Right.
It's slow.
Okay.
So the countries of the West are more at risk in terms of violation of the credibility of their, infrastructure than us.
Okay. All right. We look at the next story. Dana Air moves to resume flights, concludes safety training. This is from the Daily Trust. Dana Air may soon resume operations following the conclusion of its internal safety management systems, that's the SMS, training for top management staff and post holders. This was part of preparation for the resumption of flight operations by the airline after it was suspended by the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, NCAA. The accountable manager of the airline, Memobong Etete, confirmed that the airline had made tremendous progress in the audit of its operation as directed by the NCAA. An interesting story.
Yeah, very interesting.
Very interesting story.
Very
given its implication for the traveling public and safety of air travel, and then difficulties Nigerians are facing presently as to the cost of air travel. Nigerians are really groaning because of a reduced capacity. Yes, reduced capacity is a global phenomenon, but we can ill afford to have the few carriers we have being suspended, going under. It just worsens the situation. Yes.
The Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority did a very smart thing in terms of their regulatory capability by suspending that. There was a near accident, and there was need for them to reinterrogate their capability, their technical competence, and also the status of their fleet before they will be brought back to fly. Yes, I agree. Transportation is a very strategic sector in every national economy. And coupled with the insecurity, the pervasive insecurity across all zones. So road transportation is not an option. But we should always remember that it's only the rich who have been flying. A huge population or a huge percentage of air travelers are corporate travelers.
Okay.
And a huge percentage, almost 90%, of travelers by road are individual travelers. They're private people who travel. But we are having capacity issues. We are having capacity issues. So the regulator should be quick enough to recertify Dana. It's really good and it's really best, rather, that they take their time in recertifying Dana than hurriedly bringing up Dana and there will be a mishap, God forbid, tomorrow.
Yes.
So I think they are doing the right thing, and once they are done, we will sit down and back on the skies.
Right, and then the traveling public will be better off for it.
But how is going to affect pricing? Fare
Is another
the economics of airfare is another issue.
Yeah, but the economics will play its role. That is the supply end and the demand end, because no matter how you choose to look at it, introduction of one more or even half career
may not change anything, because you look at the floating cost. They have a floating cost that is determined not by them, not even by us, the travelers.
International market forces.
Good.
Yeah, yeah. But in any way, for the traveling public, the interest is, after safety or security, next thing is how does it impact on the cost of doing this travel? That's the excitement actually. And then we hope
we're going to have them back on the sky.
Yes, and then
let's not be quick to think that airfares would drop.
I think the most important thing having them back, and with the action of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, is that it will restore confidence of the traveling public. In their fleet and in the fact that the NCAA is now seen to be doing its work to guide Nigerians against any mishap that could have been avoided.
And also bring back some people who are now at home to work.
Yeah. Obviously. Yes. Yeah, exactly. That's because I will keep missing out this critical area. People being sent home prematurely.
They had to send their workers
home without pay. And then they join.
So they're going to come back now.
They join the queue of Nigerians living for overseas.
Okay.
When we talk about when we get to the main topic of the day, we'll now look at the data coming from various stakeholders in this area, the rate at which our experts and professionals are living. Yes, I know a gentleman. We'll set together a bright young man, a mechanical engineer. A scenario like this led to his leaving for the United States of America, and he has not returned for close to 15 years. I tell you,
he will come back someday.
No. But that's when we look at this as the statistics. But when you look at the large number of those who live under these circumstances, we are really bleeding. We are really bleeding, and that's got to be looked into.
Okay.
Father Louis.
I think it's about time we proceed on the short break, isn't it?
Okay. Okay.
We will take a short break, and when we come back, we'll begin our discussion.
You have been listening to Side by Side. Now we shall begin our discussion in details on the topic of the day. The topic is Diaporans and the Nation Building. We have in the studio Dr. Ude, RGK, and I wonder who is better, who can do a better job on this issue of the day. We're all probably familiar with the saying that there is no place like home. This is true to a large extent. There is no feeling as awful as finding the prospect of returning home after work, finding it daunting. The safety of life and of property, most Nigerians living in Nigeria and in the diaspora, the perception is there is no guarantee. Even though the country is endowed with so much in terms of natural and human resources. Professor Loius Okey this position. Are Nigerians in diaspora out of the country, are they out there by choice or by default? There are not so many NDIDs, that's Nigerians in diaspora, who do not love their country. Dr. Ude keeps alluding to that. He said they will come back. So now we'll find out What makes him so sure that they will come back? It is usually the case that during the festive seasons, yes, this is true. During the festive seasons, virtually all flights are routed to Nigerian destinations. You can hardly ever get any seat. They're usually sold out, in and out. That is inbound and outbound at the appropriate time. Um, there's this statistics that in 2012, Nigerians in diaspora contributed more to Nigeria's economy than 34 of the 36 states, having remitted the sum of $12 billion. Only Lagos and Rivers States had higher GDPs. So, meaning, what does this mean? That the Nigerians in diaspora actually constitute a formal or functioning economy of their own. Um, Now, the question is, what kind of environment will entice Nigerians in diaspora to return home? What kind of environment will entice them to come home? Eh? If you try to actually look at the spectrum, security, integrity, and leadership. Uh, uh, we had that discussion offline.
Yeah.
Integrity and leadership. Yeah, when we were break, we were looking at it offline. Good governance, reliable judicial system. Dr. Odi, looking at this background, what do you think? We're talking about nation building, and then all these ramifications, economy, the social system, the politics, the security, managing conflicts, which actually is getting Nigeria, almost getting Nigeria on her knees in recent time. What do you think?
The diaspora issue is an issue you cannot discuss without the youth bulge. You must discuss the youth bulge and the diaspora issue and tie it to nation building. Diaspora, etymologically, is a word that started with the Greek and the Jews who live outside their homelands. It also has to do with people who are a minority religion living within a majority enclave. But in this case, we are talking about diasporas in Nigeria, not the forced diasporas, because there are those who are forced out of their country due to conflict. We have Nigerians living in Cameroon who were forced out due to conflict in the northeast. We also have labor diasporans, the economic migrants, who have left the shores of Nigeria, who have voted with their feet for greener pastures out there. Some of them are professionals, some are artisans, some just left to find a profession out there, believing that the grass out there is greener. So you see that there are external and internal dimensions to the issue of diaspora. Externally, the diaspora is a central pillar in the economic vitality of Nigeria, and also disruption. Not just in Nigeria, diasporas all over the world. They channel funds towards investments, and they also channel funds towards conflict. We know about the Irish Catholic. We know about the Tamil Tigers, their diaspora population
Sri
in
Lanka.
North America.
Yes.
Sri Lanka Tamil Tigers.
Yes.
We know about the Sikhs in the US, the diaspora population that
impacting
funded conflicts
in India.
in India. We also know about a lot of Igbos, the diaspora Igbos all around the world, who are championing the IPOP cause for separatist agitation in Nigeria. We know those of the Yoruba stock. So basically, they have external influences, and there are internal conditions too. But we know what are the things making people to vote with their feet in Nigeria, making people to leave. Out here in Nigeria, there is ethnic disharmony. Out here in Nigeria, there is discrimination is an overt and a covert policy of the state. So some of these people, some of these young people are not able to gain satisfaction in Nigeria. The economic environment, our economic policies are not geared towards supporting them. Opportunities are not equal in Nigeria, so they leave. But then, for us to have a demographic peace, Nigeria must be very deliberate about it to organize the demographic space because we have a demographic bonus. And if you check, in all the countries where there is heightened insecurity, they have a huge youth population. I'm talking about Nigeria. I'm talking about Afghanistan. I'm talking about Pakistan. I'm talking about Yemen. I'm talking about Iraq. They have a huge youth population. So it's still that youth bulge that is the issue. So how do we organize them? Countries are doing orderly immigration today, balancing out. Yes, we have countries in the world where they have a huge old population, like Germany, like Japan. Look at Australia. Australia has benefited from diaspora. That's from immigration. So much.
Turkey too. In
Good.
recent times, yeah.
Good. Turkey.
It's a good example, yeah.
So, because Turkey, huge population never guaranteed economic prosperity for Turkey. From 1960 to 2000, to the year 2000. But look at countries like Belarus. Belarus grew economically. They developed economically. There was economic growth in Belarus. Yet the population, even Portugal, yet the population was not increasing.
Yes.
Okay? So how do we manage this? How do we manage these people voting out with their feet? It's all about globalization. There are gainers and there are losers. So a lot of people are voting with their feet, moving to Europe, moving to the industrialized parts of the world just to earn money. Look at the report in, I think it's in 2000, the Migration and Development Brief by the World Bank. Nigeria was recorded as the 6th largest remittance economy. Sixth largest remittance economy. There are so many countries that have gained from the diaspora. So many countries that have huge diaspora population. India, Mexico. We can't compare ourselves to these people. Pakistan, but they have made so much. There was a time.
Turkey is our bringing Turkey because both in terms of remittance, even technology remittance.
Yes.
Because the diasporans in Germany played a huge role in the quantum leap of Turkey in the last 2 decades.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you can see how Turkey is blazing the trail in technology. You can see how Turkey is beginning now to play a role within the international system. Asserting influence.
Yes.
Look at Turkey mediating between Russia and Ukraine and the United Nations.
And the Western world.
Dr. Ajike.
Yeah.
Now, he cited a 2012 report. Is it 2000?
Yeah, the remittance figure.
The remittance
figure
of
$12 billion.
$12 billion.
No, it's increased now.
And by 2019,
Yeah.
the Commission on Nigerians in Diaspora reported a 25 billion remittance, which is 6% of our GDP, gross domestic product. Now, what is the correlation of this growth in remittances with also data like having our unemployment rate grow more than 30% between 2010 and 2020?
Yeah.
And in July 2022, we are told that the inflation rate is already almost 20%. And then we also have unemployment rate that is growing astronomically and all of that. So it is safe to say that these remittances have not translated into the kind of feats we see happening in Turkey, because now we are alluding to the fact that Turkey is now growing technologically and in other aspects that matter.
In a global geopolitics.
But in our own case, the money is coming. Even borrowings come along with them. And then all that is generated and yet
It's
we
not
don't.
translated into something you can see. You see, the GDP, first and foremost, is a very deceptive basis for assessing economic development. In developed countries of the world, you don't talk about economic growth. You talk about economic development. It's only in developed countries that you talk about economic growth because they have all their sectors already developed, so they are now maximizing efficiency. But here we are working to develop all our sectors. So, though the two words are used interchangeably,
but they are not the same.
And that's why here we talk about, it's unheard of jobless growth, but jobless growth is common in our climate.
Good.
Yeah.
So you see one thing. When you look at the GDP, you see that it does not translate to the dining tables of some Nigerians. And you should wonder, why is it that two international institutions have different levels of assessment? The UNDP is talking about Human Development Index. World Bank and IMF talk about GDP. Good. So our young people are in what is called a mobility trap. That mobility trap, they are trapped by poverty, they are trapped by squalor. The foreign remittances coming in are remittances for investments, most especially. Those remittances are building homes within our cities and in our rural areas, family homes. Those remittances are paying for education for family members.
Of course.
Okay? Yeah. Those remittances are setting up small
cottage businesses
and medium scale businesses for members.
Medical bills.
And paying medical bills. Because the government is not providing on any of these sectors. We have our schools shut down, universities shut down for 7 months plus. Now, do you think that all the students will go back to school? Some are in prison. Some have traveled out. Some have found jobs and now doing jobs. I'm no more interested in that. So you see that the level at which the society is destabilized by poor economic planning, by weak and inept leadership is amazing. We don't put these figures together. But you find a place like Turkey where they are, they have a system of education that is education with a technical bias. You cannot talk about Malaysia today or Singapore today having developed and grown without talking about what they invested in education.
Of course.
So you see that in Asia, the miracles of Asia, though they reject that word miracle, the development in Asia, the growth in Asia was substantially carved through investments in education and planning. So here we are not planning. Nobody cares about the doctor who lives here to go to the UK to get registered and begin a practice. Somebody said, I read it on WhatsApp, that very soon we will now be left with dating doctors.
Marginal healthcare.
So now, it's a good thing for us to achieve demographic peace. It's a good thing we'll go back to the drawing board. We'll go back and look at what is making people live. What is making our experts live? How do we create a pool, a talent pool? How do we begin to develop economic policies that will help people to grow? How do we improve on education, especially education with a technical bias? How do we improve on healthcare delivery systems? We have the best strategy under the National Security Strategy 2019. We have the best strategy.
Say that again. Yeah.
Under the National Security Strategy 2019.
Yeah,
we have the best strategy for a comprehensive health security. We have the type. The strategy we have for health security, they don't have it in the United States. We have an integrated primary health care strategy that is both preventive, curative. They don't have it in the United States. Because what they have in the United States is a disintegrated model of health services that is very expensive. But implementation has been the problem. So what do I conclude? I conclude that the strategy we have, even for healthcare, is high-minded rhetoric because it's not been implemented. We always will do an ad hoc procedure. If there's a pandemic, we always will do an ad hoc procedure. So we are not developing the manpower that we have. So, but if we institute merit and we create a system for equal opportunity, a lot of people will not vote with their feet. They will stay back here and we'll begin to have what I would call a demographic peace. You see people. Now, even for countries, we are not managing our diversity well. That is the problem we have here. We are not also managing our young population. We have a youth bulge, as we all agree. From 15 to 29 years, they are more than 40% of our population. Now, there are countries that have subsidized militaries. Israel is one. America is one. The military is one other area where you can take in a whole lot of these young people and improve your capacity to fight political violence. That you will empower the state well enough, to be able to curb the insecurities that we have. Because if you are deploying technology in a country like Nigeria, you also have to be very careful because we have a huge population. So when you deploy technology, you take a lot of people out of work. So we must deploy the type of technology that the people can collaborate with so that we can still have people on work.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Let me dimension this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our diaspora population, scattered across the world.
Yeah.
We keep talking about remittance. Remittance. They are not just folding their hands and then this remittance drops from the air. They are working in the functioning economy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just trying to nuance this. Don't we have diasporans of other countries working in Nigeria? And what are they contributing as Nigerians in diaspora are overseas?
They are contributing. We have other Africans who are in Africa. We have
what's the impact?
Who are in Nigeria.
Chinese.
We have Chinese people.
Lebanese.
A lot of these people, we have Lebanese. We have Americans who are here. We have
expatriates.
Yes.
Hang on a minute. Some statistics actually say we have more of woes from the
Of
they have
course.
been caused by those.
Of course, they are extractors. They are extracting from our systems. And they are giving more opportunities.
It's a tale of war, rather.
Yes, they are giving more opportunities than Nigerians. Nigerians, I think, is a colonial thing. You know, Fela had this song we called Colonial Mentality. So that colonial mentality, Nigerians will give more preference or more regards to based on the color of the skin. Based on the color of the skin. So some of those people are also people who are bringing ideas from wherever they are coming from, knowing that those things are still new to us, and they are coming here to implement it. For every state governor, a lot of state governors who want to give a contract to a Lebanese. You know, there are people who can also, some of these Lebanese are just Lebanese. A lot of them are French nationals. A lot of them are British nationals. So they also have access to funding that some of them can leverage on their relationship abroad to get funds for equipment that our local businesses or businessmen
various other projects
cannot get due to the prevailing economic rules and conditions.
Okay. Further, on a lighter note, because historically, diaspora has been with mankind.
Yes, man, yes. Like, even in the Bible,
Joseph the Dreamer.
No, even in the Bible,
Joseph the Dreamer.
There are accounts of movements of people in the Bible. We'll have that in the Old Testament when the family of Joseph's family moved to go meet him in Egypt. We also have accounts, starting from the exilic and the post-exilic period. There have been movement. Communities have been moving. But now the issue is, what are they moving for? Why are they moving? Even within us, we still have people traversing from the north to the southeast, as cobblers and all kinds of, they are all economic migrants. So, but I think we should order our immigration policy. All this movement, migration also destabilizes communities. If you go to the northeast or the northern part of Nigeria, even the eastern part of Nigeria, towards the Cross River and so on, some of our border states, you see that local communities are being destabilized because of the porosity of our borders. Local communities are being destabilized by migrants who come to destabilize the community, change their preferences, begin to live with them, and also create more problems.
Pressure the infrastructure.
Good. We need to have a holistic kind of plan. We need to have a leadership in this country that understands the dynamics of this movement. Australia, as we all know, has done so well. New Zealand has done so well. With
Ireland, the Irish,
even America,
even Irish economy.
Even America.
No, but the Irish economy, Irish economy gained a lot, especially in the last 30 years from diaspora. From the diaspora community, in terms of technology, they were able to transmit
not just technology, the peace, the peace and independence of Ireland today was the battle fought by Catholic Irish,
in the USA.
And let me
in diaspora.
Let me pull our discussion in this direction. Now we have this clamor, not just for diaspora remittances, but that diasporans who have gained expertise and experiences across the world come back to join hands in building this nation. This clamor comes in more than one ways, not just attracting investment, but even physically returning home to be part of the process. While this clamor is on the one side, we also have this massive movement. Our people are clogging the embassies around, scouting for visas to leave the country. And in fact, it has become a very big phenomenon now. They call it Japa migration phenomenon. Everybody will ask, what is the Japa or how far? It's become a very big phenomenon. And while those who have gone have not much confidence in the system to return, even the few that are in here
have justification
to leave, especially lately on account of insecurity. The World Bank report recently released says of about 210 million Nigerians, we have like 80 million, over 80 million living below the poverty line. And all of these things are in the mix. Now, how do we get to unbundle these issues? Because one thing stands out very clearly. Nigeria is in dear need of rebuilding. This country has to get to work. Development is a big issue. So how do we balance up these two wings?
Okay, like as I said, we have a huge young population. And if not properly managed, it could lead to conflict onset. And we've looked around various countries of the world that also has a huge young population, and we see that they're in conflict because they've not properly managed it. that demographic bonus to enjoy a demographic peace. So for us, there are so many ways. I've talked about the military, having a subsidized military, taking out of the streets a lot of these young people to join the military. I mentioned Israel and the United States. Now, we can also we don't have a national shipping line as we used to have. That's one other avenue that can take out young people. Then we have the technical aid corps. We can revitalize the technical aid corps and have these young people soaked into this technical aid corps and export them. We remember when I was growing up, I had a lot of Indian teachers and Pakistani teachers in my school.
And Jamaicans.
Okay, good, and Jamaicans. They were shipped by their country. It was an organized migration scheme. Because when you dissipate your young population, you have peace internally. And they will bring in and create this remittance economy that we are talking about. So the bulk of our young people, we should find a way. If we have a merchant mariner vessel that will take them out, the technical aid, corps, we can move a lot of people.
But it's still on, but the things are being
it's not well managed. The scope is small.
Small now, unlike before.
Now, schools from Canada, from Europe, come here to admit students. Why our schools, why our universities not going abroad to source for students?
Because you have not fixed them.
No, because they are not selling the strength of Nigeria. Yeah. Cultural diversity is a thing that every scholar will want to study, to learn. We have good schools in Nigeria. So why are they not going outside to market for students? There's families who send their children, who are Nigerians, who send their children to schools in Nigeria. It's because of cultural conflicts that their children may be having. So they now send them here to go through a hard process to learn and to be civil enough to live in modern societies. So let's create a merchant vessel system to take these people, improve on the technical aid arrangement to take these people, push our cultures, our soft power. Let's push it to the world. What are our embassies doing? We're busy complaining about our embassies not well maintained. And we know that we've received several reports about our embassies not treating our nationals well. So once we have the right economic policies, we have a pool of talents, and we also design how to convert these talents, convert them so that they can, make economic gains from talent. Let's not see talent from the height of excellence. Like you're talking about good footballers, you talk about JJ Okocha, because we have seen his talent, exposed. There are so many people who play good football who do not have opportunities to showcase their talent. So let's see talent as a recurring pattern of behavior in our young people. We have so many of them who play good football. Why can't the Ministry of Sports have an academy that will bring all of them together and send them out to Europe, to the Americas?
How about getting the home front to so work? Because
when it's been done, it's an integrated approach. Why you do this? You create a breather for your wage, the wage, how will I call it, industry. Because wages, your facilities are also being put on pressure by this huge number of people. Your hospitals, your schools, okay? There's very high wage bill. They are also being put on pressure. But when you send them out, then we'll take our time and begin to develop these institutions. begin to build this infrastructure so that they can come back to ease into the system.
It's an integrated.
It's an integrated thing. Look at, I was telling someone, look at in India. In India, they have an offset policy for defense procurement. I'm not sure we have it here. In India, they have this offset policy. What is an offset policy for defense procurement? India ordered 300 Rafale jets from France. Out of the 300 Rafale fighter jets, 150 will be built in France, 150 will be built in India. Can you imagine the level of technological transfer? Can you imagine the level of employment it will create? Now, if you have an Indian who is somewhere in America, in an aircraft, working in an aircraft factory in America, he has an opportunity to come back to India because there is a similar factory in India where his skills, his knowledge will be required and can be put to use. So we are complaining about brain drain. It's all globalization. There are gainers and there are losers. The people gaining, the transit countries, they see it as brain circulation. And for us, the origin countries, we see that as brain drain. So for us, we are losing, they are gaining.
Yeah, and then
and they are developing that economy there.
Yes,
that is why we must create an attraction for even some who may have lived so long outside, have gained so much in terms of experience and expertise, who want to come back. But take, for instance, in the Nigeria of today, where insecurity, uncertainty everywhere in the space, who wants to come back?
Insecurity is everywhere. Insecurity is everywhere. Don't worry when they say we're a failed state. They forget that the failed state concept is in a continuum. There is no state that has the capacity to protect every area within its territory. We still receive reports about children being shot at in schools and people being killed in churches in the United States. Have you forgotten?
Even in the UK.
Even in the UK. Even in Australia and New Zealand. But our own, gets them excited because it has to do with the failure of the social contractarian responsibilities of states, the absence of basic social infrastructure. So they believe that once those basic social infrastructure are lacking, then we have failed. So the thing about security is that you can even imagine it now, or you can even feel it, that within the past few months, there's been that determined commitment towards rolling back this evil of criminal insurgents, terrorist insurgents, and all manners of predatory kidnapping. But, basically, we know what to do, and I believe that the government, they know what to do, but they don't want to do it. What to do is re-equipping the police, because the police is not involved in all this. So they want to have it as a captured territory to make sure that fiscal allocation is done to them, is given to them, and they will continue to do the same thing the old way, and nothing will happen. And embarrass the president, because the president by now should be thoroughly embarrassed.
Sufficiently
embarrassed.
Yeah.
With a level of insecurity. Because we're living in a fair society. So when those people in diaspora talk about insecurity as a reason, don't blame them, they are right. But even they live in a more they live in a more critical society too. They are walking on the streets, they are scared of who has a gun behind them. But here, we are scared of who will take us into the trunk of the car, then take us into some forest.
Yeah.
And demand money.
And then you talked about when we're looking at the history of the air travel. A friend of mine said, it's better to go and borrow 100,000 naira and jump into an aircraft, and then rather than have my son kidnapped, and then I'll start looking for 100 million naira. So you can now see the air travel is no longer a corporate thing. Survival instincts.
So then you know that in Nigeria, nobody provides for you. So for there to be security, there must first of all be an objective feeling of security. So if you are somewhere and objectively you don't feel safe, then what are you doing there? Here, everybody takes care of himself. Everybody is a local government council because you buy your water,
Provide your electricity.
And
some
provide a lot of things.
Roads. Yeah, well,
even your roads.
Those,
some make their roads themselves. So you don't expect there are no enabling factors that will motivate somebody to live here or function here. We know that. That is why we are talking about a leadership that can come in to integrate these factors, integrate the diaspora, integrate economic, propagate economic tools and policies that will enhance human development.
Dr. I must appreciate the wonderful job you've done. Yeah, and then through our conversation, though a good number of critical issues were brought up. Yeah, diasporans are critical in actually branding countries. I mean, they are the most potent tools for exporting culture. And then, of course, culture. I mean, culture, exportation of culture is what precedes economic development itself. Yeah. So the role that diasporans have to play in this regard can never really be underestimated. Um, One last line for our listeners. One last line.
Well, we have a huge diaspora population. But as I said, we must take it as we must have a coordinated government policy towards having an ordered immigration. When you look at the big gainers from diaspora, you look at India, you look at Mexico, you look at China. If you go to UK, the highest number of foreign students, China makes that list. You understand? More than us. The same in the United States. So they are pushing their people out to go and learn why these countries are successful, and they are bringing them back to contribute to the national development of their countries.
Thank you.
That is one thing we are not doing.
Okay.
And that's why I said we should harness our young population.
Take control of it.
Take control of it.
Yes.
To create a demographic peace.
Yeah. That's the most important message is there must be a conscious and planned program to take control of
the young population. Because the young population is the productive population.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have come to the end of today's edition of Side by Side. I must say a big thank you to our guest, Dr. Odi Ajike, a national security expert, principal attorney at Dolce Marina Solicitors, and convener of Aruba Center for Policy and Strategy. And of course, it's clear that he is a great intellectual. Dr. Ajike,
Thank God.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. And I'm always available so that we'll expand the frontiers of knowledge, bringing our people together to unify them for the best of our country and to the glory of God.
You can be assured that we'll always take that offer. We'll always be at your door knocking. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And our listeners, thank you for joining us on the program. The next edition of Side by Side will come your way on Wednesday, September 7th at 10 a.m. Until then, keep listening to Radio Maria 91.3 FM. I am Reverend Father Louis Duniya.
I am Chiedu. Peace be unto you all.
Amen.